Okay. Good evening. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Ting Bao. I'm the Director of Integrative Breast Oncology Program at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center and the immediate past president of Society for Integrative Oncology. It's really my pleasure to welcome you all to this session, really to celebrate the life and legacy of our founding president, Dr. Barrie Cassileth, who was my mentor. And so the program, this session, the tribute to Dr. Cassileth will last 1 hour. And what we're going to do is to first have the panelists one by one say a few words about Dr. Cassileth. They actually all know her really well. And then we will watch a video we made from MSK, Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, and then followed by a slideshow with about 200 pictures of Dr. Cassileth. And then in the end, we'll have 10 minutes open mic for people who wants to say a few things about Dr. Cassileth. Come on up. And then after that, the panelists will step down, and then we'll welcome the secretary, the president, and the president-elect to come up on the podium and share the discussion about the past, present, and future of SIO. Okay? And so without further ado, let's first hear from our founding members and the past president of Society for Integrative Oncology. First, I would like to introduce Dr. David Rosenthal. So he's a former medical director of the Zachem Center for Integrated Therapies at Dana-Farber Cancer Institute and professor emeritus at Harvard Medical School. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Ting Bao. It's a pleasure to be here and to talk about Barrie Cassileth. She was a teacher, an educator, a mentor, a researcher, an administrator, an innovator, and a colleague. All of that wrapped up in one person. I first met Barrie in the late 1970s, early 1980s. We were both on the National American Cancer Society Board of Directors. Barrie had already made her name for herself. She had received a PhD in medical sociology and had already developed an interest and practice of palliative care, and actually had already set up a palliative care center in Pennsylvania. The two of us were put on a committee at the American Cancer Society, so we worked together. The name of the committee was the Committee on Quackery. Oh, yes, that's right, the Committee on Quackery. Helene Brown, who was the CEO of a hospital, big hospital in Los Angeles, used to go to Mexico and investigate various types of practices there. Yes, some of them were appropriate, but many of them were lethal. So Barrie is obviously, with her supportive care, palliative care, she knew the elements of what was beneficial and what might be extremely harmful and toxic. Then Barrie did some time work at Duke and then came up to Boston at Mass General Hospital, where I thought she was going to stay, setting up integrative therapies and palliative care. But she got recruited in 1999 to Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. And there she was asked to develop the Integrative Medicine Center, both as an inpatient and an ambulatory practice. And many of us have been to her office in the practice out there in the middle of Manhattan. Quite an experience. In the meantime, we did serve on another committee. I should mention that obviously that was 1999 when Barrie went to the Integrative Medicine Center at Memorial Sloan Kettering. The year before, Lorenzo Cohen had established the one at MD Anderson. And a year later, we established one at the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. So all within 3 years, there were 3 major integrative cancer centers at major cancer centers. In the meantime, we both served on an advisory committee for the Mind Body Medical Institute in Washington, D.C. It was run by a psychiatrist. Many of you may know him, Dr. James Gordon. Jim had a program that he conducted once a year. That program was in Alexandria, Virginia, Washington, D.C. And so Barrie and I served on that advisory committee. Unfortunately, the programs were not what we recommended, and we soon quit the advisory committee. because many of the meetings contained not only some beneficial therapies, but we were back in the days of quackery. So we were dealing with venom oil and things like that. So we went to the American Cancer Society, to Dr. Harman Iyer at the time, who was the chief medical officer of the American Cancer Society, and said, how could you help us? We would like to establish a society that deals with evidence-based integrative therapies. That was the beginning. And we did get some small amount of funding. Barrie organized that first meeting in New York City. And guess what? 600 people came to that first meeting. And it was a real success. We tied in with a surgical oncology meeting that was actually honoring Dr. Judah Folkman. And it was quite interesting that his research, Dr. Folkman's research, sort of epitomized what we envisioned that the integrative society might be looking at. As you may know, Dr. Folkman did a lot of work for years investigating how did cancer cells metastasize. He hypothesized that angiogenesis, the tumor cells made their own blood vessels and allowed them to metastasize. He then discovered angiogenesis factor and then did a lot of work to get anti-angiogenesis factors. And I'm sure many of you have seen in the cancer protocols the use of Avastin and bevacizumab to be used in many, many protocols. So that was the type of research that we thought epitomized what we would be doing at the Zachem Center. So with limited funding, it was a real success. And Barrie led that first meeting, and it was not only a success, but it led to very many more successes later on. To maintain the East-West relationship, we said, okay, let's move to the West. So our second meeting was in San Diego, California. And there we had another meeting. It wasn't as big as 600, but we still had a successful meeting. And then obviously there were many bumps in the road later on, and you'll hear that from some of my fellow presidents who are here tonight. But I think that most of the thing has been that we've been able to maintain the vision and the mission of the Society for Integrative Oncology. And that is to support the cancer patient with integrated therapies as they go through the cancer journey. If I had a glass of champagne, I would raise it and toast Barrie Cassileth. May her memory be a blessing. Thank you.
Thank you. It's great. Thank you so much, David. And then now I would like to introduce Dr. Lorenzo Cohen. He's director of the Integrative Medicine program at the University of Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center. Thank you.
Thank you, Ting. It's an honor to be able to say a few words on behalf of Barrie and the time we spent together. Not as long as David's history with Barrie, but my history with her probably picked up shortly after arriving at MD Anderson in 1997, and then in 98 when we opened the doors of what was then called the Place of Wellness, that in 2002 became the Integrative Medicine Center. And I kind of hitched a ride on the Barrie David train to help establish this organization and set kind of the initial direction, which for Barrie was always focused on research, the evidence. We'll come back to that word, quackery. I remember very, very distinctly a meeting that the three of us had when I was on vacation in Italy by the poolside, and we had to make a decision on the name of the society. This was the summer of 2002, because we had to submit the paperwork for the 503A status and the lawyers and all the rest of it, so that in 2002 we could be the founded organization, and then we hosted the first meeting the following year. And the question was, what's the name? Well, we knew Integrative Oncology, we knew society, but the question was, do we use the word of, or do we use the word for? And we probably talked about this for at least half an hour. We were modeling ourselves on ASCO, the American Society of Clinical Oncology. So we thought, well, of course it's of. And Barrie said, but we stand for integrative oncology. So ASCO, it's an organization of medical oncologists, but we're an organization of people who stand for integrative oncology. And although that may seem, somewhat semantic and subtle, it was important. And it was important to go down to that level. And that's what Barrie was about, uncovering every aspect that would make us successful or unsuccessful. And the first meeting was extremely well attended, as you heard, and it was partly out of curiosity. There were people there who did homeopathy, and there were a lot of naturopaths. There were a lot of people doing Reiki and healers. And Barrie made it very clear in the introduction of who we are, what we stood for, using the word quackery, which of course would be offensive to many people in the room, as she described what we didn't want to do. And a lot of those people didn't come back. And Barrie was okay with that. And at first, I wasn't so okay with that. We want to be welcoming and have everyone come into our tent. But Barrie had a very determined goal, which was to bring medical oncologists into our organization and to have the leadership be card-carrying medical oncologists early in the presidency. And she was married to a medical oncologist. And so she knew the dangers of not really sticking to the evidence as tightly as we can and being very cautious about treatment modalities for which it's very difficult to understand any potential plausible mechanism. Now, with that said, I do know, and my Memorial Sloan Kettering colleagues would maybe not admit it, but what goes on behind the doors at Memorial Sloan Kettering when Barrie was there with their massage therapists was often aspects of energy medicine. And I think she knew that that was going on. And as long as it wasn't necessarily talked about extensively and it was just done, then that was okay. So, there was the Barrie of what is presented as a leader of an organization that's trying to overcome so many biases that already pre-exists in individuals' notions. And then what she knew ultimately was going to be good for the patients. And, what has happened in the past 20 years, because it's literally this December that I think we incorporated, would be the 20-year anniversary, and next year is the 20-year anniversary of our first meeting. What's happened in these past 20 years is so remarkable. And, I only wish Barrie was here to see what happened this past year, which wasn't just ASCO endorsing our guidelines, the kind of mecca of medical oncology saying, yes, we like your guidelines, but those guidelines were written with a true partnership. And this is really what Barrie dreamed of when she founded the SIO.
Thank you so much, Lorenzo. So next, I would like to introduce Dr. Donna Abram, a specialist in integrative medicine and cancer treatment at the UCSF Osher Center for Integrative Medicine. Thank you.
Thank you, Ting. So I was a newcomer on the block, really. That New York meeting was my first experience. And I come from a background of a little bit of activism. I was an AIDS oncologist in my youth and a gay man. So I was pretty much act up, fight back. And then my next career was studying cannabis. And I fought the government for 5 years to get marijuana for my first clinical trial. I had just finished my 2-year online distance learning fellowship with the now called Andrew Weil Center for Integrative Medicine at the University of Arizona in Tucson when I came to my first meeting. And the first speaker was a conventional breast oncologist from Memorial Sloan Kettering. I said, what? This is supposed to be integrative oncology. Where is this integrative? And I got a little bit riled up actually at that first meeting and said, what are we doing here? And then somehow I got involved in phone calls with the organization. And I said, you know, maybe a relevant talk would be if I spoke about medical marijuana or cannabis and cancer care. Remember? And Barrie said, quackery. She didn't say it, but she put it in the same category as she always said in quotes, energy medicine, that she didn't want to hear about that. And she didn't think it would be good as a young organization for us to affiliate or align ourselves with such a controversial intervention. And you know what? I'm saying all this because I wasn't young, but I was young in this sort of context of working in a society. And that was my first lesson from Barrie, that we do have to sort of walk a path and try to be nice to our, I am a conventional oncologist as well, but I'm a Gemini, so I can be in two different, I won't say that in front of Barrie for sure, but I can be in two different places at once. So I became the treasurer for too many years of the society, and we were not doing very well. And we had a lot of debt. And every year when I would look at the books, there was always a contribution from Barrie Cassileth that she made to keep us a little bit afloat. In the year before I became president, in 2009, Stephen Sagar was president. We were having issues about our management, who should manage us, and also about, we had a journal of the Society of Integrative Oncology that Barrie really supported because she thought it was a way for us to present research in a peer-reviewed, evidence-informed or based context. And the journal was losing us money, and there was a lot of controversy. Should we continue with this publisher? Should we go somewhere else? Should we do? And Barrie ultimately suggested that maybe we do an e-publication. And I didn't even know what an e-publication was. And I reviewed my emails last night from Barrie over the years, and she sent me a copy of a traditional Chinese medicine journal that was an e-publication and told me it was very beautiful and that we should do something like that. She also sent me Helen Moss's business card. We were so in bad financial straits that we needed to plan to have our meeting in New York for 3 years in a row. And we met there for 2 years in a row. And the second year I planned a lovely reception at a downtown facility that one of my friends in show business or business had lined up for us. And I told Barrie we were going to go there for our dinner. She said, no, we can't do that. I said, why? She said, women in high heels don't want to go on the subway to go from the medical society uptown to downtown. So we didn't do that. So Barrie and I communicated a lot via email, I noticed, and she was on a TV show with Andrew Weil, who's my friend, and she was concerned that there might be confrontation. And she sent me an email saying that, please send your friend, Dr. Weil, a message that I'm so glad that we didn't disagree. And another email I got from her that I thought was sweet, Donald, you make me happy. I'm grateful for that, XO. So Barrie was a real delight. And I just want to finish by reading what I said to the ASCO Post in this lovely obituary that they ran for her with a lovely picture. For many years, she was the force behind as well as the face of integrative oncology. Her persistence, professionalism, caution, and caring allowed a new field to emerge and be accepted by conventional cancer caregivers. It is difficult to estimate the number of patients who have benefited and the career pathways paved through Barrie's vision. She was also just a very lovely human being. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Donna. So next is Dr. Gary Deng. He is our medical director at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. Gary, I apologize. You have 2 minutes, and so is Rich.
All right. So we heard a lot about Barrie's in the light of professional settings, and I worked very closely with her for many years, so I can tell a little bit more about her on the personal level. That there are other sides that the public or even maybe these people may not have seen. So the first one is I think she touched a lot of life and changed the trajectory of a lot of people, and myself included. So I was a young doctor, fresh out of residency, trying to figure out what I'm going to do with my career. And I was flipping through JAMA and saw an ad saying Memorial Sloan Kettering is looking for integrative medicine doctor, physician. I said, what is integrative medicine? And when I read through it, I said, this is exactly what I want to do, because I graduated from medical school in China. Even though I'm Western trained, we train also in traditional Chinese medicine. So when I read they're going to bridge Eastern Western medicine and bridge research and clinical, I also have a PhD, so I'm researching clinical things. I said, well, this is exactly what I want to do. So I went up there and we talked, and she, as you know, she's very charismatic, right? She's smart, she carries herself in a very dignified way, but she's also very warm. So after that, I said, well, I find my calling. This is exactly what I want to do, and the rest is my career. So I think she was able to find that switch in our body that I didn't even know I had, but she was able to turn that on. And since then, every day I feel blessed and lucky that I'm doing what I'm currently doing every day. And I really feel very grateful for her to give me this opportunity. Throughout the year, I also saw her touching other people's life in a very similar way. A lot of international people from Argentina, Italy, Russia, Ukraine, and around the world. She may have had just one conversation, one meeting, and it turned the fire on in that person, and they went back there and started this movement in their country or in their city or in their state. So I think that's one thing I think is very important part of her contribution. The other part,
Gary, sorry, because we actually want to leave room for other people. I know some people from Africa wants to talk at the end. Sorry, reach 2 minutes. Sorry, this is I'm good at timekeeping. So lastly, I would like to introduce Dr. Rich Lee from City of Hope. He's the medical director of the Integrative Medicine program at City of Hope, and who's also Dr. Cassileth's mentee. Go ahead.
Thank you, Ting, and I'm really honored to be up here with everyone. And I'll similarly, I think very similar to Gary, maybe just say some really warm memories I have of Barrie. And I think as when I first met her, I was a fellow at the Boston meeting. I think it was like the third meeting, and the whole idea that you could actually have a career, I wasn't even aware of that being a possibility. And even after that first meeting her, she was like, "Oh, reach out anytime. I'm happy, be available." And I just got this warm, very generous, supportive feeling from her, and continued to keep in contact with her. And I would intermittently reach out, and she was always available to talk. And I do remember one time, I think it was in New York, where I was about to present, and she was the moderator. And I was kind of waiting. I think there was an AV issue. So while we're waiting for the presentation to come, she just leaned over to me and said, "Rich, I'm really proud to see you back here at the meeting and presenting and doing, all, you're publishing, you're doing work, and good job. I'm really, really proud of you." And there's something about that that just stuck with me. I was like, Barrie Cassileth said, "Wow," So as Gary said, that I was, it sticks with me even today. And so I think her generous spirit is so has made such a huge impact. And I remember meeting her before she stepped down, and she was talking about travels to Europe, and she was even telling me about bringing textbooks to somewhere she was traveling so that the students had more advanced textbooks. And I was left with this impression of like, wow, Barrie is like, everything she does is so generous and thinking about others. And she's carrying these heavy textbooks, on the airplane, and so that others could, continue their learning. So I'm so grateful for everything she did in society, and it's great to have this tribute. So thank you again for inviting me.
Thank you all so much. So, and now we switch. So as you know, Dr. Cassileth was also the founding service chief of Integrative Medicine Service at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. She started our service in 1999 with 10 plus people. And then now is over 60 people, possibly the largest integrative oncology center in the world. And she really treated us as family members. And to pay tribute to her, our MSK Integrated Medicine Service has put together a video to honor her.
In 1999, I moved to Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center and began to organize the first and what I believe is still the largest integrative medicine program in the United States.
It's hard to narrow down the list of accomplishments. Barrie was such an impactful figure in the field. But if I needed to focus, I think what she did was really take what maybe historically was reviewed as alternative medicine, reframed it in the context of complementary and integrative medicine to be something that to work with more traditional therapies and also to apply the same rigor to evaluating these therapies, whether it's acupuncture, whether it was herbal medication, so forth, that you would apply to a clinical trial, and to really be a partner with practitioners that were specialists in more traditional therapeutic oncology.
I felt that Dr. Cassileth overcame some of the obstacles to introducing integrative medicine as a formal service into the hospital by the education she provided, so that people were really clear about what we would do or could do and what we wouldn't do, that we were not going to introduce something that had no evidence base, or if it didn't have, the evidence base was still scant, that there would be very few known side effects where people had brought charges against a doctor or a hospital, for instance. She was like a locomotive. You know, if once she decided she was going to do something, by golly, she was going to do it. And she wasn't going to just do it part way. She was going to do it in big fashion.
Barrie understood that the most critical thing that she needed to do in order to create integrative medicine and integrative oncology as a field was to get the buy-in of the oncologist. It was incredibly important that she actually do that. Without the oncologist being at the table, she wouldn't be able to get the referrals, she wouldn't be able to get the research dollars, she wouldn't be able to get the respect and for the field that we have been able to do. And she did that by forming relationships early on and nurturing those relationships throughout her career and making sure that she was working on research together with them as well. And it's how the clinical referrals got to her and to the group. It's how other institutions heard of her and reached out to her to learn about how to develop their own integrative oncology programs within their institutions as well.
And she wasn't just interested in changing Memorial Sloan Kettering. Oh no, she was interested in changing the world of oncological care. And that's one of the reasons they created Society for Integrative Oncology, as I perceived it, was to make sure the research was done, that evidence was out there so that other hospitals could create programs like ours or some version that would be accepted in that hospital, that unique hospital environment.
The Society for Integrative Oncology started up, and everyone would make these jokes about, BC, meaning before Cassileth, and so on, and how she really started the field. And she never really bought into that at all. She didn't want to be one of these, gurus and, oh, wait a minute, let's go and see what Dr. Cassileth would have said, and we have to sort of absolutely follow that. She saw it more as a process and as contributing more generally to the process. She was acutely aware of the suffering that cancer causes to patients and their families, and everything was organized around that.
Barrie was incredibly passionate about making sure that patients and family members understood what integrative medicine was and what alternative or sham medicine is. And she was also incredibly passionate, making sure that clinicians and researchers also understood what was fake medicine or that was being sold to patients, because she came from a place of understanding what patients' needs and family members need during their cancer curative trajectory, rather than somebody trying to sell something that is promising to cure them, which is actually potentially going to cause harm. Not only would it be incredibly expensive and potentially cause irreparable harm to patients, but it was something that there wasn't any research about, and she wanted to make sure that people understood that whatever you chose to use had to be researched, and had to be researched in a way that could be replicated.
When I think about Dr. Cassileth, I remember her as somebody incredibly visionary and big in our field. I remember when the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center established this service, I was still at UPenn in my fellowship. Knowing there's somebody as intelligent, as accomplished as her leading this exciting endeavor, even at that time, this field doesn't really exist. I didn't feel alone. I felt her gravitas helped me as a junior trainee and faculty, and really feel like there's something bigger to anchor on my passion and my drive for the field of integrated oncology.
So when I was first hired, I heard rumors about Dr. Cassileth. I never met her before, and so the first time I got to meet her was at an oncology seminar where I was teaching. And as I was coming in to Manhattan, I spilled some coffee on my shirt. And my shirt was just drenched in coffee, and I think I had an extra shirt in the car to maybe go dancing with that night. And so I kind of cleaned the shirt when I got to work, and I hung it, and it was drying, and I put my clubbing shirt on. And this is where I met Dr. Cassileth. I walked over to her, and I went to shake her hand and said, "I heard so much about you. It's such a pleasure to meet you." And she looked at me and said, "You're not going to wear that, are you?" And this was my first experience of Dr. Cassileth. Needless to say, we had gotten very close after that.
Dr. Cassileth valued the dedication that people had toward their work, whether it could be a researcher or an office assistant. She truly valued the devotion that people had toward their work.
I think she values the most is actually the integrity of our field. She was the one, along with a number of other people, really tried to distinguish alternative medicine from complementary medicine, and also establish the definition of integrative medicine, which is evidence-based complementary medicine. So I understand that at the beginning, it was an uphill battle. She had a difficult time, but then gradually she really stood the ground, and then now the whole field is really behind her. So we're really doing evidence-based integrative medicine, and very few times we started talking about alternative medicine.
Good morning and welcome to Integrative Medicine Grand Rounds. We have the special pleasure this morning of Dr. Gary Deng presenting on acupuncture, sort of everything you've always wanted to know but were afraid to ask.
And throughout the years, I got more and more impressed with Barrie's multiple characters that made her almost the ideal person to be the founding service. Actually, the founder of, one of the founders of this whole field, because she, number one, she is very driven, had a very clear vision. That the clarity is also important. She also knows what we need to do and what we need not to do, because it was a very tricky period of time and a very tricky position she was in. on one side, you have people who are very skeptical and critical about integrative medicine. On the other hand, on the other side, you have people who are doing this outlandish alternative therapy, giving the whole field a bad name. So how do you navigate in between these and build an alliance and build credibility and assemble a critical mass of professionals, both clinicians, researchers, administrators, patient advocates, so that they become almost like a movement or organization, so that the field of integrative oncology can have legitimacy and actually blossom over the last 20 years.
8 years ago, she recruited me to work at Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center Integrative Medicine Service. Then I really got to know her closely, and my impression of her changed significantly since, because as I mentioned, I was a little scared of her at the beginning, but then once I got to know her, I realized she's actually a very warm person and very personable. She and her husband started taking me out to different restaurants, have dinner, and introduced me to different areas of New York City and really helped me to settle down. So my impression of her has since changed quite a bit. I realized not only she's a pioneer in our field, a wonderful researcher, she's also a very personable person and very considerate mentor.
She was a terrific mentor who always brought out the best in all of us at Integrative Medicine Service. And we felt like we were a part of a big family. And she was also among the very few leaders to offer employees the option of remote work. And I should say from which I benefited enormously. And I'd be grateful to her forever for that.
Dr. Cassileth, and I saw this again and again, so it's not a specific memory. She was moved to tears at the thank you letters that patients and family caregivers sent her to thank them for our services. And she received hundreds of them. And she never grew tired of reading them. And that was so touching to me. I mean, she had a very different kind of role than we did. We got to see the positive effects immediately as clinicians. She did not. So these letters verified how important and powerful what she was making available to these patients, how well it worked.
So after working with Dr. Cassileth for some time, that first impression that I had gotten of her had changed immensely. She was always in a very starched suit and she never had a hair out of place. She was rumored to be all business, and she was all business. But after getting to know her, it turns out she was very caring also. She really loved her staff, and her compassion for the patients was what drove her. So when I first met her, I didn't know that she was as caring as she actually was. And it was just a pleasure to find out that she was a doll. She was really a sweet, sweet person, and much warmer than I thought when I first met her.
Under her leadership, her group developed this website about herbs that basically goes through, it's an alphabetical order, it's very user-friendly, goes through the list of the different substances and herbs and so forth, and then gives us a very readable, quick synopsis of the data, what it's proposed to do, how good is the data that it actually makes a difference, and so forth. And so, you know, I think that it's something that really very scientifically rigorous thing that is that again helped kind of merge like the you know different signs from different directions and content areas. And I do feel that that's something that these things just don't happen overnight, and they build on themselves. And I really think it takes enormous drive and perseverance to do that.
She was a Vogue model. Rain, shine, snow, or sleet, she was dressed to the T, and her wardrobe, her presentation was always flawless. She presented herself as she gave, top notch. And she didn't let anything get in her way of that. If she had to get up at 3 a.m. to look her best, she would get up at 3 a.m. and present the way she wanted to be visualized and heard.
I remember Dr. Cassileth being visibly joyful when she would show off pictures of her grandkids to us, to staff at IMS. And I'll always remember that.
One of my fondest memories of being with Dr. Cassileth took place when we were on our way back from a medical symposium from the Gabriel Angel Foundation. We were walking through Central Park, and she pointed in the distance and told me that there was a tree that she and her husband Buzz had sponsored. She told me that Buzz loved to ride his bicycle and would often go past their tree. I thought it was a lovely reminder of the many things that Dr. Cassileth cares about. New York City was one of them. And her relationship with Buzz always impressed me as being one of gentleness and joy. When I walk through Central Park today, I think about their tree.
I think her contribution to the world will be remembered by her contribution of establishing our integrative oncology field and also help establish Society for Integrative Oncology.
Barrie's work has allowed integrative medicine to care for the mind, body, and spirit of countless MSK patients during the most challenging times of their lives. This model of care has been replicated elsewhere around the United States and the world.
In terms of legacy, I really think her biggest legacy is she is the founding mother for the field of integrated oncology. She has not only created a very vibrant service at MSK that has served countless number of people impacted by cancer, but she gave the life and the vitality and the rigor for the field of integrated oncology that there are thousands of people around the world are working hard to bring evidence-based integrated medicine together with conventional cancer prevention and control to improve the lives for people impacted by cancer.
I would tell Dr. Cassileth that the integrative medicine service she created is flourishing, and patients continue to benefit from our offerings. And the Society for Integrative Oncology that she founded continues to uphold its mission of promoting evidence-based integrative healthcare. And it has grown to include more than 500 members from 32 countries around the world. So she would be thrilled to know the progress we've made.
If Dr. Cassileth was still here today, I would thank her for inspiring me to be a powerful woman. And I would also thank her for really, literally helping to save my life. Because when I was working at Integrative Medicine and gave birth to my twins, I was diagnosed with cancer myself. And she really helped me get the treatment and help that I needed.
I would tell her that the service, your child, which is our integrated medicine service, are in good hands now with Dr. Jun Mao and all our colleagues and our staff. And the institution is a very different place in terms of the institutional support our service. And you should feel very satisfied that your legacies will go on and flourish. And but without you starting the first step, none of these things would have happened.
So if she was here right now, I'd say, look around and see what is going on right now and realize that a lot of that is because of you.
If Dr. Cassileth was here right now, I would tell her, thank you. Thank you. On behalf of myself and everyone, I applaud you.
Now, so we have been talking with Dr. Barrie Cassileth's family. So they sent us 150 photos of Dr. Cassileth, and now along with a list of her favorite music. And then so putting together with the SIO photos and MSK photos, here is a slideshow.
In my mind, I'm gone to Carolina. Can't you see the sunshine? Can't you just feel the moonshine? And ain't it just like a friend of mine to hit me from behind? Guess I'm gone to Carolina in my mind. Karen, she's a silver sun. You best walk her away and watch it shining. watch her watch the morning come. A silver tear appearing now. I'm crying, ain't I? Gone to Carolina in my mind. There ain't no doubt in no one's mind that love's the finest thing around. Whisper something soft and kind. And hey babe, the sky's on fire. I'm dying, ain't I? I'm gone to Carolina in my mind. In my mind, I'm gone to Carolina. Can't you see the sunshine? Can't you just feel the moonshine? Ain't it just like a friend of mine to hit me from behind? Yes, I'm gone to Carolina in my mind. Well, dark and silent late last night, I think I might have heard the highway calling. Geese in flight and dogs that bite. The signs that might be omens say I'm going, I'm gone to Carolina in my mind. With a holy host of others standing around me, still I'm on the dark side of the moon. And it seems like it goes on like this forever. You must forgive me if I'm up and gone to Carolina in my mind. In my mind, I'm gone to Carolina. Can't you see the sunshine? Can't you just feel the moonshine? Ain't it just like a friend of mine to hit me from behind? Yes, I'm gone to Carolina in my mind. Gone to Carolina in my mind. And I'm gone to Carolina in my mind. Gone to Carolina in my mind. Gone, I'm gone. Say nice things about me, 'cause I'm gone, solid gone. Got to carry on without me. I'm
So now we basically have 8 minutes, and we would like to open the mic to the audience. If anyone wants to say something about Dr. Cassileth, and if no one, Gary. Exactly, I was thinking, Gary, finish your. I cut you off earlier.
Well, we still need time to for other things. Right?
No,
Tell
yeah.
your story.
Yeah.
Oh,
Finish
okay.
your story.
Right. Thanks, Eugene. I was going to say there's remember one is she touched a lot of people's life and actually changed life, and these people went out there and changed they're like multipliers, right? Change other people's life. The other thing that is, if you know her in person, she's very smart, very driven, very rational, and very strategic. Because without these qualities, she would not be able to achieve what she was achieved in a very big, well-established cancer institute. But once you know her, you see on this tough service, on the tough shelf, inside is actually a very tender heart and a very kind heart. Because there's countless examples. If you talk to our staff, for people from in all walks of life, patients, our staff, she's always very kind. She never say bad words or make people feel bad. And if she's tough on you, it's still the good of you and for the good of the service. So I think, in Buddhism, the human being, we want human being to have two quality. One is the 慈悲, which means 慈 means I want to improve or bring happiness to people, and 悲 means I want to reduce suffering, right? 慈悲, and the second one is wisdom. I think Barrie has both 慈悲 and wisdom, and a wonderful human being.
Great, thank you. And
I'm just going to read some things in the chat here. What an amazing tribute to my beloved cousin, Barrie. Thanks, everyone, Jay and Janice. Beautiful memories and inspiration to all from Carolina, Salvador. So beautiful to hear about my grandma's impact on so many people. Thank you all for sharing, from Rachel Greenspan. Jody Greenspan writes, thank you so much to all for this magnificent tribute to our mom. She's phenomenal. She was so honored when Mr. Rockefeller brought her in as the bridge between Eastern and Western medicine. I have the crystal bridge he gave her. It is one of my treasures. Thank you for honoring her so beautifully. And Jazila Mantis, lovely tribute, very moving and inspiring.
oh, wait, don't go ahead. Thank you. Please, thank you.
Hi, my name is Wei Dongluo. I'm an oncology acupuncturist from Dana-Farber Cancer Institute. And I think I'm only a few persons here attending all the SIO conference, started the first one. And that was Dr. Cassileth organized at New York City. I remember that was in the Times Square in the Marriott, right? There was 600 people attending. And I just remind me that that meeting is like a Woodstock festival. Very similar, right? And also the people are coming to that Woodstock. That was the SIO, first SIO. And I vividly remember the Dr. Cassileth's speech at that time. And because I worked for David. I remember Dr. Cassileth everyone called her as the mother of SIO. She is the mother of SIO. Everybody should remember her. And another thing is we had a few interactions. I had a few interactions with her because she's right up there, the first founder. I'm a little acupuncturist. And, but at one time she told me, she said, Wei Dong, I know your work. You did a good job. Because that should refer to my first paper that published the SIO, the journal. And it does not exist anymore. But it my article still be cited many times. I think I contribute to her accepting review my paper at the time. So in few interaction with Dr. Cassileth, I just feel she is a very kind person. She looks, we all see, she looks beautiful, spotless, but in the deep inside, she's a scientist and she's a very nice gentleman, the lady. So I just, tonight, I just feel very fortunate to be here to memorize her contribution to this field, integrative oncology. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much. So I'm just going to end this because I'm actually, the reason why I cut, oh, you're here. Okay, I was going to say, thank you for coming, please.
Thank you. My name is Filippo Dio. I'm a psychologist from Kenya. And interestingly, I was introduced to Barrie by the late Dr. Jimmy Holland, who I was living with in Scarsdale. And at the time, I was doing my observership at Memorial Sloan Cancer Center. And I told Jimmy what we were doing in Kenya. And Jimmy introduced me to Barrie. And I had a brief moment with Barrie. And what stuck out for me was when she mentioned that whatever you're doing in Kenya, make sure that it is evidence-based, interestingly. And then she gave me a copy of her book, Survivorship. And she actually autographed it. So I have the book at home. which really helped me because after that, we had, I was working at the first kind of like integrative oncology center in Kenya, which is still running. We have a lot of integrative therapies that we are doing there, but what stuck out for me was the passion that Gary had. She showed me around what they were doing at the center, very big center then. So that gave me a vision that, you know, what they are doing there, we can try to replicate and do it in low and middle income country. And of course, some of those therapies we've done, and I have noticed the big difference that it makes in patients' lives. Thank you so much. And I thank God for giving us Barrie. Thank you.
Thank you so much. He's the reason why I cut Gary off because I was saving time for him.
There's something on the chat.
Go ahead.
Sorry, there's two more. One from Yi Lily Zhang. Dr. Cassileth's beautiful inside and out. Her determination and vision will be remembered in the field of integrative oncology forever. And then from Nirmal Shetty, I had the pleasure of meeting Dr. Cassileth in her office in New York in 2012. I was interested in seeking her advice about how acupuncture is integrated in MSK, as my efforts in Mumbai was futile. She was very encouraging and gave me a lot of brochures and reprints of an overview of integrative medicine at MSK. I gave her a copy of the abstract of my clinical study on acupuncture as an adjuvant to morphine and cancer pain that I had presented in the 16th International Congress in 1994. She appreciated my work and motivated me to continue with my work. She was a wonderful person to meet.
Definitely. That's a wonderful way to conclude our session. Thank you, everyone. So next, let's bring our Secretary, President, and President-elect up. And they're going to talk about past, present, and future of SIO. In addition, they're going to make an announcement of how SIO plan to honor Dr. Cassileth. Thank you.
Well, that was amazing and a very hard act to follow. And thank you all for sticking around for this portion of the evening. Where's Jody? Oh, there you are. So you're starting, aren't you? Yes. Okay. You got the advanced thing? The green arrow. You got to point it that way.
Thank you. I'm Jody McLeod. I serve as secretary for the SIO. Yeah. Okay. And also as co-chair for the Patient Advocate Committee. And it is my pleasure tonight to talk about this project.
I can do it. Here, tell me when to go.
That would be lovely. When?
It just takes a minute for some reason.
There. Okay, very good. To honor Dr. Cassileth, SIO has established a scholarship in her name, which will support the SIO annual New Investigator Forum. The scholarship will enable new investigator awardees to attend conferences and participate in the forum, which is a mentoring session with SIO experts in integrative oncology research. So last night, the 2022 New Investigator Forum took place in the Sunset Room. And next slide, please. Thank you. The four awardees are Doctors Lam, Wong, Langley, and Neural. And I would like you to join me in congratulating the first group of Dr. Barrie Cassileth scholars. So, thank you. So in the project team, we added Ms. Lee Leibel, and I will explain more about her role in a bit. But writing a history of SIO was Dr. Bao's idea, which she presented to the board last year in Baltimore during the board retreat. And she asked me to help collect materials for a booklet. She began emailing past presidents and asking them to write about their time at the helm of SIO. And we're so grateful to each of you who have contributed in this way. Go ahead. So here is a sample of some of the sections of the booklet so far. It will be published in time for next year's conference in Banff. And if you'd like a free copy, don't forget to register for that event. Yeah. Oh, that's out of place. Behold, all of the presidents of SIO, and in 2023, SIO will have its 17th president, current president-elect Santosh Rao. So in addition to the booklet, we'll have some features on the SIO website, including video interviews with SIO past presidents and longtime members, new members, international members, which we are filming here at the Scott. And those interviews are on thanks to Dr. Rao. And we have also to thank for this idea of doing these videos, SIO's Senior Director of Administration, Graham Hauk, and SIO board member and co-chair of the Yoga Special Interest Group, Lee Leibel. Lee Leibel's offered her experience as a former CNN producer and we, in talking with her, she has noted that in her conversations with interviewees so far, there have been two themes that have stood out to her. And one is that those interviewed feel at home in SIO. And the second is that SIO's strength is in its evidence-based approach to integrative oncology. Yep, before we go, okay, perfect, was please send more photos. So here, yeah, that's okay. This is good. Stay here. Stay here, yep. So I have a little preview of the photos that we have been given so far. And we need more photos, especially from the early years before the advent of smartphones and better camera technology. The early years, 2004 up to maybe 2016 or so, where begins on Twitter a really nice record of each consecutive SIO conference. So hold on one second.
Can I just say that's the most random picture of me? And
I know.
My wife would kill me because it's so messy behind too.
Oh yeah, but that is quintessential pandemic work.
But that's the point. That's the point. So this is Dr. Rao presenting during the 2020 virtual conference, and sorry. Hold on, no, not yet. Okay, so then on the right is Dr. Jun Mao closing the 2016 conference in Miami. And below is the 2018, last time we were in this area, a panel on integrative medicine for pain, which should sound familiar if you've been looking at the program, because Plenary 3 will explore the recently published SIO ASCO guideline on integrative medicine for pain and oncology. Go ahead, thank you. So this first picture is from Cleveland in 2011, and that's Dr. Keith Block and the keynote speaker, Francis Collins, past president Stephen Sagar, and then Dr. Deng. And then here is Dr. Brian Lewenda, who spoke this morning in Shanghai at the symposium in 2008 with two Canadian colleagues. Next. And also in Shanghai in 2008, Dr. Weidong Liu, Dr. Lorenzo Cohen, and Dr. Zishan Meng. Oh, some of the slides are there, perfect. Okay, from 2015 in Boston, patient advocates Eileen Fuentes, Laura Pohl, Carol O'Toole, and Myrtle Washington presenting their poster. And in 2019 in Manhattan, Dr. Mao with Dr. Massimo Bonucci, who is here attending the conference today. Also in Manhattan, Drs. Gabriel Lopez, Susie Zick, Claudia Vitt, Aran Benarie, and Judith Lacey. And then on the right, yes, I did. Dr. Eleanor Walker speaking last year in Baltimore. So finally, who can forget all the lovely galas and special events that SIO has put on during these conferences. And these are just a few that I have attended and were quite special to me. The first being the cruise of Miami Harbor, thanks to Dr. Mehta in 2016. 2019 in Manhattan, those Broadway singer performances, oh my goodness. And going clockwise in 2020, that's my screenshot of the special healing event with Tony Redhouse, a Navajo recording artist and performer and healer. And then finally, last year at the National Aquarium in Baltimore, and that's Dr. Channing Poller, Linda Carlson, and Matthew Zachary, who was one of our plenary speakers.
He was great. And see, you unflattering pictures, Santosh, I think I got you beat.
Very good. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoy this little preview of the history of SIO project. Now I'll turn it over to President Linda Carlson.
Thanks, Jody. That was a great little trip down memory lane, and really do encourage people who have older photos from some of the pre-digital camera days to send those in, because this booklet that Jody and Ting are putting together with Graham is really going to be an amazing keepsake of the first 20 years. And it was so wonderful and timely to hear that tribute to Barrie Cassileth, just to remind us of our roots, right? Where have we come from? What are our values? That sense of being in this together, of being a part of a family. So I'm not going to take too much more time, but really just wanted to talk about, oh, that wasn't supposed to happen. Okay. This thing hates me. There we go. Oh, no. That one, stay. So just to summarize very briefly, some of our current priorities, we really have been focusing over the years on membership development, specifically reaching out around the globe to improve our reach, to enhance our membership around the world. We've also been working on developing partnerships with other oncology organizations, with journals, with granting foundations to give our members more opportunities to reach a broader range of stakeholders and people with our work, and our guidelines project. So I'm going to really briefly tell you about each of those areas. And so membership is of course the heart of our society. Our current membership is around 600 people. It's been growing steadily but slowly over the years. We have about 450 members from North America. The rest are from other parts of the world. Our second biggest membership would be from Europe. We also have a large membership in Asia as well as in Australia. And I'm happy to say that we have 8 people from Korea here today at this conference. So that's lovely. And thank you for traveling so far, all those of you who have. We've really been trying to enhance our membership benefits to attract people to the society, to retain members. And so the things in green just indicate some of the partnerships that we've developed just in the last year to really enhance the opportunities for our members. So some of those partnerships include with the Cancer Network website and the journal Oncology. So we have regular publications in that journal. We push out content from our various committees and special interest groups through their website on a regular basis. We've also partnered with the Journal of Integrative and Complementary Medicine, which used to be Alternative and Complementary Medicine, but it's been renamed this year, partly because we pushed for that as a condition of our partnership. And so our members are able to publish in there for a discounted rate and get discounts on subscriptions to that journal. And we also partner with the Gateway Foundation for Cancer Research, who has a special track for integrative oncology research for smaller grants to get new investigators off the ground typically. The guidelines are really, did I miss one? Wait. Oh no, I don't, okay. So you've heard a lot about the guidelines. You'll hear a lot tomorrow, but this has been a really big project for us, funded by the Samueli Foundation, $500,000 of funding to go through a series of 5 or 6 guidelines where we've partnered with the American Society of Clinical Oncology, so ASCO, the largest organization of mainstream oncologists really in the world, and have just published our first guideline through this process on pain. Hopefully you've seen it in the media. It's gotten really a lot of good attention. So the pain guideline is published. We're working on an anxiety and depression guideline, which will be coming out next year. We're also working on a fatigue guideline. And we've just announced the next one is going to be on sleep. So integrative approaches to dealing with sleep disturbances and insomnia. And we're also working on fundraising beyond these guidelines because they need to be updated, and we need to sort of continue this effort. And we'd like to see it as an ongoing, stable project for SIO. All right, I'm going to turn it over now to Santosh, who will talk a little bit about our vision for the future.
I'm going to skip the slides, I think. Okay, I'm not going to say what's on the slides, but
No, they're good. You gotta.
okay.
See? They're good, aren't they?
Okay. Well, first of all, it's the conference. So, first of all, I was very touched by the session, and Ting, amazing job, as well as everybody that helped you. And I'm really happy that some of our founding members are here. And when I think of the future, I think we constantly need to learn the lessons from the past, but also remember who we are, like Linda said, and really keep that in our heart, and think about, the things that I think make us who we are is, first of all, compassion for patients. But we are a family. We all are like-minded, and we like to have fun. And I think those are the key things that have kept us all engaged, and now we're doing good work. The society is in a very strong position because of a lot of efforts from a lot of people in this room. So I think we need to keep that good work up. Part of that starts with next year. Integrative oncology is standard of care. The time is now. We will literally have that view. So you got to be there. And then the next one is going to be, I'm sure, an amazing conference with Dr. Lee, chairing in Irvine. And that's another great view in Irvine in 2024. And then 2025, I'm going to be there for sure. Yes.
And
So,
did you notice the little SIO flags in each of the?
yeah. I mean, so this is about us spreading the word, doing great work and having fun. I want us to do all of those things and keep coming and keep getting together and building this network. So this is a part of it. I think when I think about the future, very briefly, I think it's really about acquiring knowledge, research, helping people do research in the right way. I think we're starting to do that. I think we'll continue to do that. And then disseminating that knowledge through education, through the guidelines, and then implementation and growing our reach around the world. And that's what we've been working on. And I think there's still a lot of work to be done in all three of those areas. And then anybody who has ideas, we want people to keep giving ideas and keep this fire burning, because just like Dr. Cassileth, I think we have all kind of been inspired by her, by our patients. And so we need to carry that torch forward. And there's so much more work to be done.
Next slide, we need it.
Okay.
There it is.
So these are questions. Actually, I was just hitting on this. Okay, so you can scan that QR code and answer some of these questions. What do you value most about SIO? What would you like to see SIO focus on over the next 5 years? What would you suggest to improve your SIO experience? Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us for the beautiful tribute and to reflect. I'd like you to really think about this over the next few days. This survey will be open through the course of the conference, but really reflecting on our past, our present, and we want everyone to contribute to a vision for the future and how you see this organization developing and what you would like us to focus on. So please do provide your feedback through this survey and reflect on these questions as we go through the next couple of days. So thank you for sticking it out tonight. It was wonderful, and enjoy the rest of your evening. We will see you bright and early tomorrow morning. 7 a.m. For breakfast roundtables. Thank you.
Yes, and Lorenzo has a keynote at 8. Do not miss that. It'll be great.